So to start this off, I was hoping we could go back to when you was like a 5-year-old little super, as young as you can remember, Chilla Jones, and walk us a little bit through the soundscape of your existence.
Man, if we're going to 5 years old, so I was born in '87, so we're looking like '92. And also a New Year's baby, by the way, so it's pretty accurate. The soundscape. My mom was big on Michael Jackson.
Mm.
So there was a lot of Remember the Times, doesn't matter if you're black or white, a lot of those tunes. She was big on Whitney Houston. So there was a lot of Whitney Houston in the house for sure. She was, in general, she was heavy R&B. There was really not a lot of rap influence growing up in my household. It was Brian McKnight, Luther Vandross, it was SWV, it was Escape, it was so many different, groups and vibes. The one thing I like about R&B, man, even though I rap, R&B to me is far and away the superior genre to me.
Musically, absolutely.
Musically.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Because I think it just invokes way more emotions in the record. So, above all, man, even though, there was a heavy R&B influence, I try to kind of, carry that over into my art form. You know what I mean? Because, as much as I love rap, as blessed as I am to be able to rap, as much as I love the art form, R&B just hits different, man. And, I don't know that I would be a 34-year-old man with this opinion without that soundscape as a 5-year-old, you know what I mean? To kind of mold and shape my perspective in that way. But because of that, I feel like I have such an attachment with R&B music now that 9 times out of 10, if you jump in my ride, it's probably what you hear. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it just is what it is, man. It just hits different. You know what I mean?
Nah, I totally do. And I love the fact that you made that connection there where it's like you can bring it back to the foundation. It's part of why we go back to when you're so young, because so much of that part of your life actually impacts things that happens later on. We do have a few more questions related to that era of life. But before we get there, can you let us know where you're from, like where you are born, sir?
Absolutely. Born in Boston, Massachusetts, very specifically a town in the inner city of Boston called Dorchester.
Okay.
I was curious because you know what, like I've formed a bit of a tight bond with I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Loxley, Sir Loxley. And I've formed a really tight bond with Udo, a good friend of his that does a lot of filming out there and whatnot.
Yeah.
Goes by Villain. And like because of that friendship, I've traveled up there probably more in the last couple of years than I ever have my whole life, right? And I've been there plenty in my whole life, right? But like in the last few years, I've gone up there probably more than a handful of times already in like the matter of like 3 years, And so I've gotten way more familiar. And so I was curious what part of Boston it was that you know what I mean, grew up in.
Yeah. Dorchester, I'll tell you the line of the inner city, and I'm talking like dead heart of Boston. You'll have Mattapan, you'll have Roxbury, you'll have Dorchester, you'll have Jamaica Plain, Hyde Park, the South End. And that's like a line of towns that literally is dead center in the middle of Boston. So, a lot of times when you speak to different artists, whether from Massachusetts or other places, I think it's the easy thing, and I'm sure it's like this in other states too. It's the easy thing to just say you're from the biggest city. That's in the state. You know what I mean? So like you might have somebody from Arizona say they're from Phoenix when they're really from, Sedona, which is like 90 minutes north of that. You know what I mean?
Then a whole
Just because it's easier, especially, you know what I'm saying? If you're, nobody's going to be familiar with Sedona. You're just going to tell them Phoenix because, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm literally in the center, the heart, the belly of the beast of Boston is where I was born and raised.
Yeah, facts. Because like I said, I've been there a lot. And so you get familiar, right? And it's one of those things like New York City, like where we have our boroughs and then you got neighborhoods inside your borough. And even like, within a neighborhood, you have people who on this side don't fuck with people on that side and whatnot. And I've always been really curious, outside of like, that like so-called Boston, New York rivalry bullshit, from baseball that everybody tries to leak over into other shit. Like, it's just one of those things where like I find a personal, like, just curiosity towards the Boston scene, right?
Yeah.
And maybe kind of what I've perceived as the lack of mainstream rappers that have really been able to emerge out of Boston, And it's curious because it's just like it's so close to New York City. There's so much similarity to New York City, same as Philadelphia, right? That it's almost baffling that it's like, well, how is it possible? And I think that visiting up there, I've gotten to know, not to, try to steal away any of your, I'm pretty sure story that's going to come out, but like, it's been kind of from what I understand, from what going up there, what I realize is like, that's because you have a lot of people caught in the streets. And when you caught in the streets, so nobody got no fucking time for rapping, bro. Nobody got no time for rapping, for trying to be doing nothing. When you trying to put food on the table and you trying to, stay alive, there's really not much space for that energy. And so I think that's where, like, in my head, I've kind of like seen the reasoning for.
Yeah. The funny part about that too, man, is, depending on what you're into in regards to the streets, it causes a divide, right? So as an artist from the city, I'm not in a gang, I'm not in a set, that's just not me. It's never been me, whatever. Being where I am now, there are no hoods that I can't go to. There are no, gang ties that I have that would make me an enemy to any particular set. But when you're in the streets a certain way, you have that, right? So if you're from a rival set, you got a hit record. Doesn't matter how hot it is. Your rival neighborhood is not bumping it. They're not supporting it. They're not. You know what I'm saying? It may even make you a bigger target for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, we have this, and I say this all the time. We have this like big city mentality, and we are a big city, but we're not. You know what I mean? Like Manhattan as a borough is, I think, the size of Boston, not including the other 4 boroughs. So it's like you can be in New York and be from Manhattan and maybe have beef with somebody from the Bronx, and you may never even have to go to the Bronx. You may never cross paths. You may never, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you still can find enough support within your state to make an impact, to make a splash. It's tough to do that here. Our towns are small. Our towns are right next to each other. If you got drama, you are going to run into them. The city is not that big. You know what I'm saying? So it makes it so tough for somebody in that position. You know what I'm saying? Depending on what their lifestyle is and what they're repping, it's really hard to get the full support of the city on all sides, unless you move a certain way. So it's, it feels like, and it seems like, the people who have been the most successful from here have gone elsewhere to make an impact. Whether that was New York, whether that was Atlanta, whether that was LA, they normally have gone somewhere else to be able to kind of build their sound and their fan base. And then when they come back this way, that's the only other way to get, a large city on your side is to have a buzz elsewhere. And then when you come home and people see that, people are in support of that. You know what I'm saying? So, it's been really tough to organically build a buzz and a fan base large enough, man, to make that impact to transcend to the mainstream. But, shout out to Joyner Lucas, who was from Massachusetts doing his thing. Salute to Bia from Massachusetts doing her thing. Millie's cousin Stiz. I like to think we have a ton of talent from Massachusetts who are doing that thing right now. And I'm hoping that one of them can really break through on a major level. I think Joyner is right there, man, with records with Will Smith and Eminem, and he's done a lot of dope things, but I think he's just one step away. You know what I'm saying? One record away.